Remember back in 1972 going to a concert in Sacramento, and Van Morrison was performing, and at one point he threw himself up on the piano, just laying there singing to everybody. That was a long time ago. Wow. Well, I want to report something quite beautiful. In the last 4 days, there has been something just wonderful going on here. And we've been engaged in training some new chaplains. And I'm not at liberty to speak about the process at all, but I am able to speak to my own experience. And what I experienced with 8 new chaplains, plus about the same returning from last year, was a deep willingness to allow a process of love to unfold through them. I was co-facilitating, but I was also observing deeply an amazing transformation. People were willing to come out of their containment and smallness of perception and allow themselves to be an instrument of great love and great support for those that they were praying with. And it reminded me of a time back at Unity Village in 1979. I was a young man, and there was 600 what they call YOUers there, people from around 13 until 20, 19. 600 of them in this big auditorium, and they were just alive with the possibility of moving beyond their insecurities and their trials as being teenagers, and coming into an awareness of a unified field, really. James Dillett Freeman was there, who was the poet laureate of Unity for many, many years. And he was just a big heart. And there was a woman, a young woman, 18 or so, and she got up and she talked about a man that had been of service to her church's group. And she said something so beautiful. She said, I want to really thank this man. I don't remember his name. But I found out that for 6 days, as a fundraiser to bring us here to Unity Village, he had pneumonia. And he was standing in the cold of this activity, whatever it was, I don't recall what it was. But he was taking antibiotics, and he just stuck in there and he saw it through so that us kids could come. He risked his own health. And the whole week was just about this wonderful opening of love, and it reminded me so much of the last 4 days. That when we are willing to allow the power of love to transform us, it leads us to a realization that we're not alone, that we're not cut off from our source, and that our source isn't just a system of beliefs. It leads us to an understanding that paths are many, and truth is one. Paths are many and truth is one. In fact, there was a musical group there at that gathering that sang this song, Paths are many, truth is one. And I was so moved by that, and so moved by the infusion of 600 kids being willing to just go with this whole process. And I wanted to speak today about different paths. In fact, a comparison and a contrast and really of Taoism and Christianity and how these paths run parallel, really, with each other. Because paths are many and truth is one. And they're all really, religions are echoes, they're echoes of original connection with Source. And that so when we believe that a certain religion is the only way, we're really it's because of safety reasons. We need to have it be the only way for us so that we can feel safe. But behind that belief is the possibility of a felt knowing of Source, of truth with a capital T. Not a relative truth, but a real truth. And so the illumined ones that have come before us and that are in our midst now on the planet are pointing to the truth. Paths are many, but truth is one. Lao Tzu, who lived about 600 years before the Common Era, and he made his transition, that was documented in 533 BCE. He said something that was a realization that was born out of his own self-realization as he sat and contemplated the truth. And he used forms of the world, common forms that people used to make it relatable, to make the truth relatable. And he said, clay is shaped into a bowl, but it is the empty space that makes it useful. And how often do you and I adhere to the form, the bowl of life, our body, our mind, our situation, our circumstances, and sometimes we just don't even think about the space in the bowl. That the bowl is a container for an essence, and that the spiritual path really, in some ways, is about cleansing the bowl, cleaning it out so that it can be filled with something beautiful and authentic and real to our lives. The bowl is a form that holds the unseen, can be filled from time to time, and we think, well, what good is a bowl if it's not being filled? Well, and yet each one of our lives is like a bowl. I often liken this spiritual path as that we are a vessel, much like a bowl. And that if we allow the bowl or the vessel to be emptied of that which is not true, and cleaned and cleared and made beautiful, then it can be filled with an essence that is who and what we are. And that is the work at hand, really. Beliefs are strongly held opinions, and we each have a right to our beliefs. But like I said before, to question, to stay within the question of those beliefs and to see whether or not they're serving you at this moment in time of your life. The TAO is, when we gel it down or distill it down, it means the way. And it's interesting that in first century Christianity, as a comparison, in the first century there was no Christianity. It was just simply called the way. So these two religious ways are pointing to an experience that is not about form, that humans make up forms around original contact, original intimacy, original connection and meaning and revelation of the essence. Religions are simply bowls that hold essence. And that as we go deeper into our own practice and our own self, we realize the truth of this, that there's no need for competition or my way is better than your way. Truth, paths are many. Truth is one. And Lao Tzu also stated, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. And Charles Fillmore of the Unity movement said that the physical world is evidence of a spent force. So that if we want to live within the cause, the first cause of our source, we want to live within the alignment, within the frequency, within the divine vibration of our source, then we want to come to a place of recognizing that the form is not the point. But what's filling the form? What's filling us? What's in your bowl at this moment in your life? Well, there may be a mixture, right, in your experience, just as there is in mine. A mixture of lots of different elements of shadow and light, essence and effect, pain and joy. And it's all allowed. It's all part of the path. It's all part of our curriculum as we move forward. And sometimes in the human experience, we project our essence onto someone else. I was just speaking with someone the other day. They were interviewing me in a way of seeing where I was coming from in terms of the path of spirit, to see whether or not this was a fit for them. And I said, don't ever give your power away to anybody, ever. As a spiritual teacher or someone like that. Don't ever give your power away. If they're worth their salt, they will encourage you to develop your own power, your own connection with the divine, your own alignment with your soul. And if they don't do that, then they're somebody on your path that you can learn from and then walk on. Because that is not the divine design. The divine design is for us to tap in to a direct connection with Source. To not only live within the echo or the effect or the evidence of a spent force, but for us to live within that truth ourselves. And I wrote down here in my notes, some people in the room may wonder why I'm speaking of Taoism so close to Easter. Well, what is Easter? Is Easter, and this may seem like somewhat of a radical statement, oh well. I think the teachings of truth are radical. They are a radical departure from the norm of sleepwalking within a belief system. They are a call for us to wake up, to awaken, gently, lovingly, knowingly. But Easter is a container itself. It's a container, it's a bowl of structures and thoughts. But behind that container is an essence of regeneration, an essence of resurrection into a state of knowing and oneness with Source. To me, that's what Easter is. And we may adhere to and find great comfort in the story of the resurrection. And that's great. Comfort is an aspect on the spiritual path that we require quite a bit. I don't know about you, but reassurance that things are unfolding in a way that is about heart-centered living and that life is safe and wonderful and there's connection with friends. All of this is important, relatively. But behind that is a spirit of truth that is a resurrecting power that is active even in this moment, in this very room, in your life, in your heart. I saw it so clearly yesterday in the chaplain work. The dynamic, alive power of the Spirit working in people's lives to help them move forward in who they are. In terms of the teachings of the West, there is back in probably the first century sometime there, or the second century, there was a group of teachings that were put into clay pots and that were taken to a cave in Egypt. And they were discovered in 1945. And they were put there because the official canon of the day, or the officials of the day, wanted to have a certain way of looking at Christianity, the budding Christianity, and to have everything just kind of lined up in terms of that's the way it is, so that they, in my estimation, could be in control, to control people. But the truth is not about control. The truth is about freedom. In the Gospel of Thomas, which was one of those Gospels that were in these clay jars, it is said that Jesus stated, "When you make the two one, You will become the children of true humanity, and you will say to the mountain, move, and it will move. Now there's 114 sayings in the Gospel of Thomas, and half of them are in alignment with the teachings within the synoptic Gospels that are in the Bible. But they weren't tampered with at all over the centuries. Like I said, they were found in 1945. So what is this voice speaking of? When you make the two one, you will become the children of true humanity, and you will say to the mountain, move, and it will move. And what this means to me is that there are two aspects of self. One is what we call the higher self, and the other is the personality self. And when the two become one, you can say to a mountain of false beliefs, problems, and trouble in your life, move. And they will move because of the power that you have in alignment with your own true self. That is the dynamic of this path, really, to align ourselves with this one true self. Lao-Tzu, representing the current of the TAO, states, to be one with TAO is to live in eternity. There is safety and wholeness there, even after death. So both of these great enlightened ones are speaking about an alignment with Source. That through that process, the two will become one, and we will be aware of eternity and no longer just kind of walking through life. No more victimhood. Lao-Tzu also said, with minds free and thoughts gone, the countenance becomes clear and serene. And this is an interesting statement from the Gospel of Thomas, from Jesus. Whoever drinks from my mouth will be as I am, and I will become him, and everything that is hidden will be revealed to him. Well, what does that mean? Literally speaking, drinking from his mouth? I don't know if I want to do that. In a literal sense, but what does that mean metaphysically? The throat is the power center. When we drink from or take or ingest into ourselves the power of our own Christ nature, that which is true will be revealed to us. A transmission of power takes place. See, Jesus, in my view, when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he was not talking as Jesus. He was talking as his higher nature. When he was talking as the personality Jesus, he said, I of myself can do nothing. It is the Father within me that does the works. So you can see that there are two natures. But when they become one, when they become in unity, in truth, then there is genuine, authentic power. And this is what these teachings point to. They're not inviting us to participate in the echo of beliefs. They are inviting us to be in union with the actual source. And we have to ask ourselves if we're willing. Are we willing to allow this to be? Are you willing to hear just a little bit more? In Lessons in Truth, one of the basic books of the Unity teachings, there's something called chemicalization. And chemicalization is when the light, the actual light of Source, hits the emotions and the mind and the physical body. There is a stirring up. There is a process of, and this may not be an attractive word, purification. But purifying is like filtering. Filtering that which is not true. And you and I have a lifetime of holding on to certain beliefs that may or may not be true. And that when the light of truth moves in that territory, in that interiority of self, there is chemicalization. But the intention of the light and truth is to bring us into alignment with the self, the Christ nature. Its alignment, its intention is benevolent. And most people want to adhere to a belief system that is safe and predictable and fits for them. And that's fine. That's good. That's where we're at. But if we want to go deeper into the presence where the two shall become one, it requires courage and trust. And I'm right there with everybody else in terms of this blossoming or opening. So I would just leave you with this coming week. Pay attention to what is moving in you. What is moving in you, and what is the quality of perhaps resistance that you may have around your own path? And treat yourself with love and compassion as you inquire into this. It's not easy being in Earth School. Earth School sometimes can be a real graduate course. So love yourself, but also perhaps challenge yourself to stay awake, to pay attention, to respond with love. Thank you.